Listen, a good man does not break with a shout. He breaks with a whisper. He breaks in the space between the breath he holds and the breath he lets go. He breaks when the world stops hearing him and his voice turns inward. He breaks when the last promise he made to himself slips away like steam from a cup at dawn. If you've ever felt that quiet tear in the earth under your feet, if you've ever watched yourself grow still while your heart keeps walking, you know this moment. This is not drama. This is not rage. This is the point where a good man finally gives up. I did not give up fast. No good man does. I learned early that real strength is not loud. It is not fists. It is not a hard face. It is a steady hand on a heavy door, opened again and again for people who forget to say thank you. It is a straight back under a sky that rarely clears. It is a calm voice when everyone else is shaking. I kept that voice. I kept opening that door. I kept showing up. I kept forgiving. I kept going long after I had nothing left to prove. There were days I thought effort could fix anything. If I worked hard enough, the broken chair would stand, the roof would stop leaking, the relationship would heal, the silence would speak. I believed in effort like it was a religion. I gave hours, then nights, then years. I carried the blame when things fell apart, because blame is simpler than mystery. Blame at least has a name. Mystery just stares back. People said I was patient. They said I was calm. They said I had an old soul. They did not see the knots in my chest. They did not see the words I swallowed every time I smiled and said, "It's fine, I got it." They did not see the lists in my head for everyone else's needs, the way I measured my day by how much I could carry for the people I loved. They did not see how often I stood in the kitchen at midnight, hands on the counter, eyes closed, breathing like a man does when he is trying to keep the ocean from spilling out of him. I learned to be useful. That is what boys are told in 100 different ways. Be useful. Fix the hinge, lift the box, drive the car, calm the room. Hold your pain like a secret. Hold your fear like a child that cannot cry. And because I was good at it, the world gave me more. Because I took care of problems, the world brought me bigger ones. Because I listened, the world grew louder. Because I was kind, the world forgot I was tired. Because I stayed, the world assumed I would always stay. If you ask me when the change began, I'll tell you it was not one blow. It was a slow sand. It was little promises that thinned out. It was hello turning into later. It was later turning into never mind. It was the way thank you left the room. It was how jokes about me became normal, how my needs turned into a punchline, how my boundaries were treated like small fences to step over on the way to something else. It was the small cuts that don't look like much until you realize you are bleeding everywhere. I told myself it was just a season. Work seasons are long. Family seasons are longer. Love seasons are supposed to be worth it. I told myself real men endure. I told myself real men don't count the cost. But a ledger writes itself in the dark. It adds every apology I made for others. It adds every time I was last on my own list. It adds every time I explained myself to someone who only heard what they wanted. And one night the numbers stared back with a simple truth. I was lost in a house I built for everyone else. On that night I did not scream. I did not break plates. I did not punch a wall. I sat on the floor with my back to the bed, and I let my breath come back to me. It felt strange, that breath. It tasted like a forgotten language. The room was quiet. The clock moved. The city hummed. And in that ordinary sound, I heard something I had not heard in years. My own heart asking a fair question. How much longer? I thought about the first time I learned to ride a bike. My father's hand on the seat, the run, the release. I remember the rush and the fear. I remember wanting to prove I could stay up forever. But no one stays up forever. Every ride ends, every race has a line. I had been riding past my line for years. I had been pedaling through storms I did not have to enter. I had been losing parts of myself along the road and calling it duty. I looked at the man I had become, reliable, steady, quiet, and I realized I had become a ghost who could lift heavy things. When a good man finally gives up, he does not stop loving. He stops convincing. He stops proving. He stops auditioning for rooms that will never see him. He stops setting himself on fire to keep other people warm. He stops arguing with someone's idea of him. He stops chasing almost and maybe someday. He stops moving the goalpost in hopes that someone will notice how far he has run. He stops holding a door for a crowd that never intends to walk through. I remember the day I stopped defending myself to people who had already decided I was wrong. I remember the day I took my phone and removed the names that pulled me back into old storms. I remember the day I said no and did not explain. The world did not end. The room did not tilt. The mirror just showed a man who looked a little less tired. A good man can carry a lot. He can be a son and a brother and a husband and a father and a friend. He can be a worker and a builder and a shield. He can hold a crying child at 3 a.m. and a broken engine at 7 a.m. and a joke at noon and a fear at midnight. But he is still a man, not a mountain. Even mountains fall piece by piece into the sea. Rocks do not apologize for erosion. They accept it and become sand. I do not want to turn into sand. I thought giving up would make me smaller. I thought it would ruin the shape of the man I had worked so hard to be. But it did something else. It took the noise away. It took the weight from my shoulders. It took the duty that was not mine. It gave me a clean table. It gave me a chair by a window. It gave me a sky I had not looked at in a long time. There is a lie that says you cannot love people and leave them. That you cannot be kind and also be gone, that you cannot be forgiving and still close the door. But love without edges is not love. It is a flood. It destroys the house. It removes the walls that make a home a home. I am not leaving because I hate you. I am leaving because I love me. I am leaving because I love the part of me that was quiet for years, the part that held back so the world could go first. He is tired. He needs a seat. I think about boys, little ones who learn to fix everything they did not break. Teenagers who learn to be silent in rooms that mistake silence for strength. Young men who grow into handles for other people's doors. Old men who carry the museum of their pain in their bones. To every one of you, hear me. It is not weak to rest. It is not unmanly to leave a place that will not hold you with care. The bravest thing I ever did was step back from the fire I had spent years feeding. Sometimes you give up not because you failed, but because the game is not worth winning. The prize is a cage. The applause is a leash. The cost is your face in the mirror. I see my face now. Lines I earned. Eyes that still hope, but no longer beg. A mouth that will say no like prayer and yes like promise. I walked through the house that last night with my hand running along the walls like they were old friends. The pictures leaned into the light. The rugs held the shape of my steps. Every room felt both full and empty. I turned off one lamp, then another, and the darkness felt honest, not cruel. A good man gives up in steps. He gives up the need to explain. He gives up the role of savior. He gives up the fight to be understood by those who choose confusion. He gives up the hope that one more act of kindness will unlock someone's closed door. He gives up on pulling miracles out of a hat that has nothing left. I stood by the window and watched the street. Headlights drew lines the way time does. People went somewhere, as people always do. I was not in a hurry for once. There was no timer on the stove, no message waiting for a reply, no project leaning against my spine. Just the night, and a man, and the truth that felt quiet in his chest. This is the part where you think I'll say I changed my mind. But I did not. I let the thought of leaving sit beside me like a dog that had finally found its way home. In the morning I made coffee. I drank it slow. I listened to the cup touch the table. I wrote a short note to myself. Today, walk like your name belongs to you. That was all. I put the note in my pocket and went outside. The air had a chill. The sky was pale. The world did not cheer. It did not mourn. But my steps felt mine, and that was more than enough. I started choosing small things: a quiet dinner, a book with soft pages, a drive without a destination, a bench at the park where the old men play chess and the boys chase a ball. I watched life go on without my constant rescue. I watched people fix their own problems because I did not rush in. I watched the ground hold them. I watched the ground hold me. Giving up sounds like defeat. It is not. It is a shape change. It is a decision that says, I am no longer building ladders inside a well. I am leaving the well. If the house was on fire, I would still carry you out. I would still give my coat. I would still lift what I can. But I will not stand in rooms where the smoke is the point. I will not live in emergencies that never end. If you want to know what it feels like this. An exhale that does not end in guilt. A sunrise that does not feel like a deadline. A mirror where your eyes are not asking for permission. It feels like you walk through the same streets and the city is larger. It feels like water tastes better. It feels like your name spoken in your own voice carries more weight than the world's hammer. When a good man finally gives up, it is not a curse. It is a closing and an opening. It is a soft lock on a door that was never safe. It is the first honest meal you eat with a hungry soul. It is the kind of sadness that does not ruin you. It is the kind that cleans you. I know some will say I failed, that I should have stayed longer, that I should have been more patient, more holy, more iron. But iron rusts if you leave it outside forever, and holiness is not abuse with a halo. Patience is not the art of disappearing. I did not fail. I finally listened. I finally chose to be a man who lives, not a myth who functions. I will miss some things. The laughter that came easy on the rare days. The soft ways we existed when the world was kind. The routine that made me feel useful even when I was empty. I will miss the shape of what I carried, because carrying gave me purpose. But there are other ways to be needed that do not require my disappearance. There are other rooms where my voice is welcome. There are other mornings where the light lands on my face, and I do not look away. If you are listening and you are one breath away from this place, let me tell you what waits on the other side. Not a parade, not a miracle, not instant joy. It is simple. It is quiet. It is a chair that fits your back. It is a shirt that fits your shoulders. It is a prayer you can say without feeling like you are lying. It is the ability to say, I am tired and not be ashamed. It is making peace with the truth that not every story is yours to save.